Hey, high rollers, you all know I love the game of craps. In the casino, it's my second favorite only to poker. Love the action, the vibe, it's frenetic. It feels like a team game too. When one person wins, everybody wins. And on the right night with the right group, craps can be electric. Of course, if you're winning, that helps. Our guest today is an expert at the game, here to help us win, the author of Platinum Craps and Dice Setting, Systems for the Beginner and Advanced Player. The reviews have been great, testimonials too. He lives and works in Las Vegas, has been studying the game for some 40 years now. Garrison Russell, our guest today. Garrison, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being our high roller today.
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you for having me on the show. I've listened to some of your other shows, and they always are excellent and very informative.
Listen, I got the book right here in front of me. It looks great. We're going to talk about that in a second. I got to mention the website, of course, platinumcraps.com. You got to check it out, folks. It's a great website, a wealth of information on the site. Again, platinumcraps.com, and the book as well, a ton of info in there. But before we talk about that, John Patrick, he wrote the foreword and 2 chapters in this book. He's had a legendary career. The guy is world-renowned, one of the greatest gaming authors ever. Again, John Patrick, the host of the TV show So You Want to Be a Gambler. You two are longtime friends. Tell us about that relationship. He's like a gambling guru.
Yeah, John's the Warren Buffett of gambling authors. He's written 15 books. He had his award-winning show, So You Want to Be a Gambler. Well, it kind of starts way back when. When I was 15, for Christmas, my uncle brought up a small craps table. It was all in a big box with the rubber, and we could play. And he tried to teach us the basics, bet a pass line, take 2 come bets, everything that most of the books teach you. But all we did was roll 5 or 6 rolls, and then we'd 7 out and lose all our pennies and buttons. So I said, there's got to be something more to this. So the first thing I did is I went to the library, and one of the first books I found was a book entitled Scarney on Dice by Mr. John Scarney. Great mathematician. He worked for Hilton Corporation. And so I read that book, and then one day I was just watching a cable show in Michigan when I lived there, and it was hosted by Mr. John Patrick. Well, John got my attention because he taught you the way to play as a professional player would play, not as a mathematician. And he said he'd written a book and he had these videos out on classes. So the next day I bought his book. I found a video at one of the old video rental stores, and I started to study. And then eventually I called him, and we just got to talking. And God, I think we've been friends for 35, 40 years. And then eventually when I decided to sit down and write my book and kind of do some new updates on dice setting and playing, I sent all the information to John and asked him if he'd write the foreword to the book. Now, John was never a dice setter. He always passed the dice when he was playing, and he played his advanced methods, the Patrick system, the ricochet system, he hedge bet. So I didn't know what was going to happen. And he just celebrated his birthday, January 4th, which makes him a Capricorn. So you don't push them. They're very practical and logical. Well, I let things go about a month, and then I was talking to him. I said, John, I'm really thinking about writing this book. Would you consider writing the foreword to it? To make a long story short, he said yes. Well, I almost fell off the chair. Because then I told my secretary, well, now I have no choice. I have to write the book. John's going to write the foreword. And then we talked on the phone for about 6 to 8 hours. I got all the information from him about his career, his life, how he got started in gambling, right when he came out of the Army, how he became an author, how he got his television show. In fact, it's one of my favorite chapters in the book. So, he's written, besides the 15 books, the 2 books on craps, he has 2 books. Unfortunately, they're both out of print. The basic and intermediate book is approximately 300 pages, but the Holy Grail is his 600-page advanced book with the green cover. Now, you can't find these books at a high price on Amazon. John sends us the books signed and autographed for our students. And like I said, you just can't find them anywhere else. And then we took his classes that were originally on VHS. We put them on DVD, but now we have them on flash drive, so all the millennials can watch it on flash drive. And it's just information that has to be passed on from generation to generation. These are the pioneers, the John Patricks, the John Scarneys, the John Wynn. He's the gentleman that developed the craps table as we know it today. And you have to send this information to the new players and teachers. In fact, when I wrote my book, I dedicated it to John Patrick, John Scarney, and John Wynn. And then in the back of the book, I thanked all the new authors and all the teachers that are now teaching dice setting and controlled shooting and bringing it to the public. In fact, there's an old saying, everything that's old is new again. And it goes in cycles. So that's how I met John Patrick.
You said something very interesting there that caught my ear. He always passed the dice. See, when I play craps, I always want to throw the dice. That's interesting.
Well, everybody does. But, John played very conservative. He was strictly a place better and a hedge better, which we get into. He just never really wanted to throw the dice. So he's one of the few that passed the dice. But he had systems that he used called the Patrick system. He used the ricochet system. He did a lot of hedge betting. Stuff that we cover in our advanced classes that most players never even get the opportunity to learn.
You also said something that rang true to my heart. Your uncles gave you a craps table? That sounds like a misspent youth that gambling runs in the family. Mine too. I remember my uncles taking my pennies off me when I was a kid.
Well, it was about one of those, it was about 3 foot long, 2.5 feet wide. It would sit on a card table. And, we didn't have a big full-size table, but it was enough to, put a few chips down or put your pennies and buttons down. And, we had some dice. I don't even think we had legitimate casino dice. We were probably playing with Monopoly dice. But, it was fun, and it had the layout, and you could make your bets and put them where they're supposed to be. But like I said, the average shooter only rolls 5 to 6 rolls and 7's out. And I said, well, it's an interesting game, but there has to be something more to this than just throwing 5 or 6 rolls and then losing all your money.
I can tell just by talking to you that you've loved this game for a long time. What is it about the game of craps that appeals to you?
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, you said it's a game that a lot of people like to play together, and that's true. But everyone's playing their own game within a game. I mean, some people are playing the pass line, some people are playing the don't, some people are making place bets, some people are making other bets. So everyone's playing their own game within a game. But being from a math background, what I liked is that you could play on both sides of the table. You could either play on the pass line when the dice are rolling favorably, or if the dice are rolling negatively because there's an energy at the table, you could play on the don't pass. There's very few games that can do that. Craps is one, Baccarat is the other, where you can play banker or player. But you can't go to a blackjack table and say, I want to bet with the dealer. They'll say, excuse me, sir, there's the exit. So with craps, you can follow the trend of the game and play accordingly. And it's like flipping a coin. If you flip a coin 100 times in a row, it's basically going to be 50% pass line, or let's say heads, and 50% tails, and we'll call that the don't. But crap players are the stubbornest. They never switch and change over when the energy changes. They just keep betting the pass line, the pass line, the pass line. And unfortunately, they lose a lot of good opportunities by not knowing how to bet on both sides of the table. So that's one of the reasons I like it. Plus, as you say, you get to throw the dice yourself. That puts you in the game. And, that's always a positive.
The book is called Platinum Craps and Dice Setting. And I'll tell you what, it looks great. I was flipping through it again today. Thanks, by the way, for signing it. I really appreciate that. The layout itself is appealing. It doesn't seem daunting or cumbersome, it's sleek. And it's got a big league magazine feel to it. Once you start rifling through this thing, dare I say a Las Vegas feel as well, loaded with great pictures. And it's full of nostalgia. Nice job on this.
Oh, well, thank you. I wanted to make it more like a coffee table book. There's 90 photographs in it. Most of them are color. We used 120-pound glossy paper. We did raised lettering on the front, things that, most publishers don't do. But the key is, and I think this is the most important part, is the way I laid it out and the way I teach. When I was in college, my professor said, use the KISS method. Keep it simple. Don't try to talk over the player's head. There's only 2 ways. He told me there's only 2 ways you're not going to learn. Number 1, you don't come to class and you don't read the information. Well, that's your fault. That's not my fault. Number 2 is that the instructor makes it so complicated, it talks over your head and you can't follow the information. Well, that's the instructor's fault, not the student's fault. So I always remembered that. So I tried to make it using the KISS method, keep it simple, make it easy. I put in a lot of charts that shows things like return on investment and all the dice setting charts, and then all the dice sets are in color. And I actually spread the dice apart so you can see what they call the inside access numbers. So I even taught this method to my little, well, now she's 9, she was 8 at the time, how to set the dice. And, she can set the dice in under 5 seconds because all you have to do is be able to count to 6. It's not that difficult.
No, you lay it out, and it is fairly simple. You've got some great charts in there. Now, I think it's fair to say you've made this clear that most books on the market today, when it comes to this game, are just plain incorrect. They put casino math in front of real math. Can you explain that?
Well, now you hit one of the golden rules of the table. Yeah, it's what we call casino math versus real math. I'll just go over it briefly, but, mostly when you play or you read a book, it says that if you take a pass line or a comeback, you're only fighting a 1.4% advantage. When you take single odds, it goes down to 0.8, double odds 0.6, etc. But the key to this game is how much are you winning and how much are you betting? It's called return on investment. So you could make a bet, let's say like a place bet, that actually has a higher percentage against you from what the books tell you, but you're winning more money. I listed all the charts from single times odds up to 100 times odds. So without getting too complicated, I'll just give you one quick example if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay, let's say your point is 5 or 9, and you have $10 on the pass line or the come bet. Well, that bet only pays even money, even though the true odds are 3-2. Let's say you take $10 odds. Now you have $20 on the table. If the shooter rolls his point, you only win $10 even money for the pass line and come bet, and you win $15 true odds for your odds bet. So you bet 20 and you win 25. Well, the way to figure your ROI, or return on investment, it's not that difficult. You take the high number, in this case 25, divided by the number you bet, 20. If you have a percent key, just hit the percent. If you have a phone with no percent key, you have to move your decimal point over. But basically, it comes out to 125%. Bet 20, win 25. If the player took the $20 and placed the 5 or 9, you get 7 for 5, 7 for 5, 7 for 5, 7 for 5. 4 times 7 is 28. Well, 28 divided into 20 is 140%. So each player had the same amount bet on the table, but one player made $28 at 140%, and one player made $25 for 125%. So the key to this game is how to put your money on the parts of the table that are going to give you a higher return on investment. And here's what the books don't tell you, and I emphasize this. Your pass line and odds bet and your come bet with odds bet is a 2-part bet. You can't take odds without betting a even money pass line or come bet. And since that first part of the bet only pays you even money, it lowers your return on investment. That's why the casinos have a limit on how many times odds you can take. Now in Vegas, it's mostly 3, 4, 5 times odds. 3 for the 4 and the 10, 4 times odds for the 5 and the 9, 5 times odds for the 6 and the 8. But with the place bets, you can bet all the way up to the maximum. And the casinos know this. So when we teach, we say, well, what would you rather have, a return of 140% or a return of 125%? It's basic math. I don't like to put the cart in front of the horse. I try to put the horse in front of the cart.
That's interesting to me because I've always been told that pass line, with insurance, the come bets, those are your best bets. We just had Dominic Larigio on not too long ago. Great talk with him. Bit of a legend of the game, and he's a big proponent of the pass line bets, especially the come bets. But you're saying that that's wrong, that these place bets are better. Wow.
Well, all you have to do, and if you have the book, look on page, I forget myself, it's on the chapter, Come All Thee Faithful and Place My Bets at the Table. What is it? It's page 34 and 35. So there it shows you the amount you bet, the amount of odds you take, how much you win, and then what your return on investment is. Now for the 6 and the 8, the player has to take 5 times odds to get to a 116.66% return. If you're just placing a bet for $6 and it pays 7, if you take 7 divided by 6, it's 116.66%. It's the same. But why take 5 times odds and lay that much money out on the table when you could place it for 6, 12, 18, or 24 and get the exact same return on investment? For the 5 and the 9, 7 to 5 is what you get on your place bet. 7 divided by 5 is 140% return on investment. The pass line or come better would have to lay 4 times odds to get the same result as the place better. And for the 4 and 10, your place bet's 9 times 5. It's 180%. You'd have to take 5 times odds to get the same amount. Now, here's the other thing that most players don't know, and this was in John's book, and I put it in my book. Come bets work on the first roll of the game. Okay, place bets don't. So let's say you made your point, you're coming out for a new game. You've got $10 on the pass line. This is when you want to roll a 7. Let's say you roll the 7. You win $10, even money in your pass line. But if you had 2 come bets up there, you lose those come bets because come bets lose on the 7.
Right.
They give you back your odds. But you won 1 bet on the pass line and lost 2 bets on the come bet. Now you're in the hole. The place better didn't lose anything. And here's the other thing that place bets have that come bets don't have. Place bets have options. Once you win a come bet, those bets come down and the dealer gives you back that money, and you have to start all over. If you win on the place bet, you can say to the dealer, same bet, or press it, go up 1 unit, regress it. You have all types of options with place bets that the come better doesn't have. Plus, they just pay more money. So not only do you win more money, you have more options.
I'll tell you what, you've given me a lot to think about. I play craps recreationally, and I do so only once in a while. I love the game of poker, and craps I kind of expect to lose. I get, all riled up in the atmosphere, and I forget about all this strategy stuff. I'm basically there to have fun. But this is interesting because craps is one of those games where math is so important. And if you look at poker, Chris Moneymaker wins in 2003, the WSOP main event. Poker explodes, and the evolution of poker math with all the money involved increases exponentially. Math is important in poker, but if you look at the craps table, it's all it's a numbers game.
Well, here's the thing. You don't have to be Nicholas Tesla to figure this out. You just have to have some basic math and multiplication tables. And the only thing that people say about the come bets is, I win on the 7-11. Yeah, but you lose on the 2, 3, and 12. So you got 8 ways to win, but 4 ways to lose. And you don't get to pick your number. You don't have any options. So a professional player is going to want to have options to protect his money and have control of the bets. Winning on the come on the 7-11 is not how you win in craps. It's about how you handle your point numbers 4 through 10. How do you handle your place bets? And never be afraid to take profits. One of the reasons players lose too much money is they never take their profits. They press. When the 7 comes, they lose everything. In fact, I wrote a whole chapter called Ronnie Regress versus Peter Press, and it explains why you should take your profits. My best friend's a stockbroker. He said, Garrett, they're never going to complain to you if you take some of your profits and then leave some of the money on the table.
Well, one of the most important topics in poker, in all of gambling, craps, money management. I think this is where a lot of players go wrong. You've been in the game a long time, and you know the importance of managing your money correctly and doing the right things with it. You're there to win, right?
Yes. It's called money management and discipline. And if you don't have discipline, you're never going to win. And I don't care if you're playing poker or craps or baccarat or tiddlywinks. You have to have some discipline. Remember, there's 3 types of players in the world. Bulls make money at a bull table when numbers are running and the cards are flowing. That's everyone's favorite. Bears make money when they know how to handle the don't side of the table and can utilize that energy. And the 3rd type of player are pigs. And pigs always get slaughtered. Now, unfortunately, there's more pigs in the casino than there are in the slaughterhouses in Chicago and Kansas City. And the casinos know this. I have a friend who teaches. You know how they have these classes, come down at 10 o'clock, we'll give you an hour class.
Right.
And I even mentioned this in the book. I didn't want to interrupt him when he was teaching. You don't do that. But afterwards I said, Jimmy, how come you're teaching players how to play like this. This doesn't really help them. He was talking about bet the pass line, take two come bets. He touched on the place bets. He said, let me tell you something. We have meetings with management, and they tell us how to teach and what bets to push. Bet the high percentage bets, the hard way bets, all these crazy crapper bets, the ATS repeater and the fire bets. And here was the key statement. He said, I don't get paid to teach people how to win. I get paid to get people up to the craps table so they think they can win. And I said, checkmate. There's nothing more I can say about that statement. You answered it all.
Exactly. I mean, just like the pro gambler is there to win, the casino is certainly there to win. And the casino has all the house edge everywhere you look. So you might as well delve into it, do some study, prepare, be ready when you go, and don't give your money away.
Well, that's exactly why John and I put together what they call the Platinum Craps and Dice Setting Super System, which really takes you from the beginning player to intermediate to advanced to super professional. And we want to teach the way a professional gambler should win. And that includes my book, one of John's book, all his classes, and my class on dice setting, all now on flash drive. So, you have to go out and find the information that's going to help the player. Remember, the house, if they're teaching you, they're going to want to teach you the way they want you to play, not the way you should play. There's a big difference.
All right, the website is platinumcraps.com, platinumcraps.com. Now, before we talk about dice setting, I'd like to touch on a few more bets. You already mentioned them. The all tall and small bets, the repeater bets, the fire bets. Can you touch briefly on each one?
Yeah, okay. Now, basically, those are your high percentage bets. The first thing you have to learn to win those bets is your dice sets. Without getting too involved, there's basically 6 master sets, what they call master sets, and they're all listed in the book. 4 of them help the do player, and then 2 of them are for the don't player when you want a 7 out. So once you learn your master sets and what they call the inside access numbers, then you can go to these more advanced bets. I mean, you're really jumping into the advanced category.
All right, well, let's take a step back then. Let's talk about dice setting right from the start. Basically, this is how you set the dice in your hand, what position the numbers are facing. It's a key element to the game I feel many don't understand, me included. You've come up with something you call the golden rule, and I love this. Seems like a no-brainer. Your set is the same as your point. Easy enough, right?
Well, you gave away one of our true secrets, but it's out. So, yeah, that's the key. I have all the books that have ever been written on dice setting pretty much. That's why it took me so long to write my book, because I wanted to read what was out there, what was right, what was wrong. All the books were great. I learned a lot from them. But when it came to naming the sets, everybody had different names for different sets. They'd say, put certain numbers on the top, certain numbers facing you, turn one die one way, another die another way, turn around, do the hokey pokey. I mean, it got so confusing that I was confused, and I kind of know the game. So I said, what's the common denominator? How can we put this together and use the KISS method? So I came up with your inside access numbers, and it's been written before. Dice setting is nothing new. It goes back to the late 20s and 30s. But I came up with the golden rule that your set will be the same as your point. Now, I'll just give you one quick example. I'm not going to go through all of them, obviously. But the come-out roll is when you want to roll a 7, okay? But you don't want to roll craps, 2, 3, and 12. So if you put the inside access numbers with the 1 and the 6 touching each other,
right. And
here's another shortcut. You can think of the dice as a clock. 12 will be the numbers on the top, 6 will be the numbers on the bottom, and the 9 and the 3 on the clock are the inside access numbers touching each other. So if you have the 1 and the 6 touching each other, that equals 7. 7 is the number you're trying to roll, 7 is your set. Now, that set has also been called the hard way set, the come out set, the all 7 set. It just depends on what numbers you have on top. But each set gives you 16 combinations, 4 times 4, because you're rolling 4 sides times 4 sides. So once you have the right access numbers, it's not going to change the 16 combinations. And that's what I was teaching my niece. And because she can count to 6, she got to be where she could set the dice for any number, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. and it just fell into place. It's the KISS method.
Yeah, and you lay it out nicely in the book. Depending on what number you're trying to roll or what set, you've got the access numbers all there for the reader. The sister numbers well explained as well.
Yeah, and what, for your viewers or your listeners, what a sister number is when they put the dice together, they put certain numbers on each side. So with a single die, both sides are going to add up to 7. If 1 is on one side, 6 is on the other. If 2's on the other side, 5's on the other. If 3's on one side, 4's are on the other. That's called the sister number. But then when you put a set of dice together, they have sister numbers. So if one die equals 7, what's 2 times 7? 14. So if you have the aces on top, 2, the number that equals 14 is on the bottom, 12. If you have 3 on the top, 11's on the bottom, etc., all the way to 7. And if 7's on the top, 7's on the bottom. And I forget where I put all that, but it's in the book with photographs, and it gives you all the sister numbers and how they work.
You've also, and I really like this, you've also developed a dice setting strategy chart. You've talked about it. Something we see in the game of blackjack, strategy count cards. I mean, there's even pre-flop charts in poker. Something simple there for the player to look at and help improve their game, make it simple for them.
Well, it goes back to the KISS method. And it's funny you mentioned those blackjack cards. The same company that develops the blackjack strategy cards is printing my dice setting strategy card, because I put it in the book with all the sets and all the different ways you can roll the numbers 2 through 12. Random, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 36 combinations. But then when you have a dice set, it's only 16 combinations. So I tell you how many ways you can roll each number. And I didn't want you to rip the book apart, so I actually made a plastic card. One side has all the do sides with the inside access numbers. You flip it over, it has the sets to establish your don't point, and then how to 7 out. So it's just keeping the KISS method and taking it to the next level.
I think that's vital, because I remember the first time I played craps. I walked up to the table, had no clue. I was flying by the seat of my pants. It was a scary proposition, and it can be for novices. So to break it down in a nice, easy-to-read method, I think is important.
Well, here's the other thing, too, and I tell my students this. Dice setting, I know it's the key buzzword, and I know it's the hot topic. I get it. But it's only 15 to 20% of the game. Don't put the cart in front of the horse. We teach the 80% of the game before we even get into dice setting. There's the big 4, bankroll. You got to have a little bit of money. Knowledge of the game. As John said, there's only 2 types of players, experts and dopes. Money management. How you're going to bet when you're winning, how to bet when you lose, how to return with a day's pay, and of course discipline. Then we get into the systems on how to play. After you learn all that, then we'll get into dice setting, because I've been at the table many a times. I've seen a lot of guys throw a lot of numbers, and they have no money in their chip rack at the end, because they're making all these crazy crapper bets, all these two-way bets for the dealers. They just don't take their profits. And as I said earlier in the show, don't be afraid to take your profits. You've got to walk away with a return on investment. Most players are looking for 20, 30, 40% return on investment. And as I wrote in the book, guys go in and say, well, I think that the casino should be my personal piggy bank. I want to walk out with 100 to 200% return on investment. Their thinking is a little delusional, because if you put $100 in the bank, it sits in the bank for 1 year and they pay you $1. That's 8 cents a month. So you have to think in realistic return on investment. And once you learn that, and you can accept small wins, and you're proud of yourself when you leave the table, when those big wins come, that's just extra gravy and icing on the cake.
Now, most players play the do side, right? Everyone's a team. They want to cheer along. Everybody wins. They all win. A great atmosphere kind of thing. But I know you're a big proponent of the don't side as well. And I found it interesting because I've shared this story before. The first time I played, I walked up and I bet don't pass. And I was right beside the shooter, and he said, "That's a terrible bet, kid. I'll be rolling for an hour." And he looked at me, and I'll never forget the look on his face. It was like I committed a crime. Ever since then, I've never made a don't bet pass. I believe it's bad hoodoo. Don't go against the table. But you're saying, hey, you got to know both sides. There's value on both sides. And of course, you've got different dice setups for the do and don't sides.
Yeah, here's the thing. We've all been in that situation where a person puts a bet on the don't pass line bet and the shooter gets all nervous. But the house is on the don't all day long. So if the shooter's betting on the pass line, the house is the don't. And you never see the shooter yelling at the dealer, well, you're on the don't side, you're ruining my game. It's all superstition and just, the casinos want to keep you barefooted and on the pass line side because it favors the casino. The don't side, after you establish a point, favors the player. Well, they don't want to see a lot of don't pass line bets, and they certainly don't like to see a lot of don't come bets because now the player has the advantage. And then when you get into advanced methods on how to hedge bet, now you've really put the odds in your favor. If I can tell you just one quick story about shooting from the don't that just happened a couple of weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm playing here locally on the west side. It's called Arizona Charlie's. It's a local casino. And I'm standing stick right, which means I'm right next to the dealer. The shooter's standing stick right too, which means he's right next to me and he's throwing the dice. And it's a full table. And he's rolling really well, made about 3 or 4 pass line bets and won, and a lot of numbers. But eventually he sevened out. Well, everybody at the table decided to color up and leave. Well, since it was my turn to roll, I stayed, and there was one other gentleman way at the end of the table, kind of like what they call the hook, and he stayed. Well, I just felt that maybe the energy had ended with the do side, and I wanted to practice dice setting, and I was the only one there, so I said, I'm going to play from the don't side. So I put my bet on the don't side. I looked down at the other end of the table, and the other gentleman had a really big bet on the don't side, so he was a don't better, so I didn't feel that bad. I set the dice for 4, 5, 9, and 10, which are the best points for when you're shooting from the don't. Established my don't point bet, made a couple don't come bets, got those bets behind the numbers. Then I changed my set for a 7-out set. I 7'd out. I won my don't pass line bet and all my don't come bets. My return on investment was anywhere from 300 to 400% because it's 100% return on each bet. Well, the other gentleman, it was his turn to roll, and I looked at him and I went, give me the dice. So he just said pass, and he gave me the dice. Make a long story short, we did this for 9 games, all right, where we set the dice for the don't pass line and then made a couple don't come bets and then 7'd out. We won 8 out of 9 games. Now, that's a return of 88%. I lost one game, which was, the point was 6. The dice went off axis, and I made my 6. I only lost my don't pass line bet, but I didn't lose the don't come bets because those are on different numbers. And then eventually we just 7'd out. Now, I had to cover my actions. So I'm rolling. I'm telling the dealers, oh, my God, I can't believe this. I'm so sorry. The dice are so cold. I can't believe this. And the box man, he looked at me and said, well, you're winning money, aren't you? And I said, yeah, but this isn't the way you want to do it. It's like being in a car race and the other guy jumps the light at the beginning of the race and forfeits. So I had to kind of cover my action, but I knew exactly what I was doing. And to tell you the truth, we made a lot of money shooting from the don't because we were having don't pass line bets and we were getting our don't come bets. So when we rolled the 7, we were winning on 2, 3, 4 bets at a time. When you're on the do side, you're basically just winning 1 bet at a time. There's times when you win more, but obviously it's basically 1 bet at a time. But when you 7 out, you just clean out the table.
Now, you wrote All Right Bettors Die Broke, and you also wrote the key to win money is no matter what side gives you that opportunity, you got to take it, right?
Yeah, luck is opportunity meeting preparation, okay? What does that mean? Well, there's an energy at the table. So if you're prepared and you know the game, and then the opportunity comes to you, and it could be either pass line or don't pass. Obviously, most people want the pass line. If you're prepared, and then the opportunity comes your way and you win a lot of money, people will say, oh, well, you were just lucky. No, I wasn't. We knew how to play the game. We were prepared, and the opportunity came our way, and then we took advantage of it.
What about the notion of a lucky roller? I think it's one of the fascinating things about craps. Positive vibes at the table, the whole idea of lady luck, the energy in the universe, energy at the table. Do you buy into all of that stuff? Because I feel like I do. I believe in momentum. I believe in those vibes.
Oh, there's absolutely an energy at the universe. In fact, I wrote a chapter. I think I'm one of the few people that wrote the energy of the universe and the energy of the table. Remember, Lady Luck is a fickle female. And crap players are the worst. They're the most stubborn. Roulette players know how to follow the wheel of red or black. Baccarat players know how to follow the shoe. Banker player, when the cards are rolling strong, you get the cards you want. But crap players, they're really the most stubborn. They will never switch over to the other side of the table no matter what. And I'll tell you what, it's not really their fault. It's because they haven't really been taught properly how to play on both sides of the table. I think probably the best example ever was the lady who in 1909, Patricia DeMuro, wrote 154 rolls. She was a random shooter, and she made 25 numbers or pass line bets. She rolled a lot of sevens. But it was her second time playing. She only bought in for $100. So sometimes the energy and the planets will line up to give you those monster rolls. And she still holds the record for being the longest roll in the history of craps.
Yeah, I know about that roll. 154 rolls, some 4 hours apparently at the table
Right.
at the Borgata. And I mean, that must have been some kind of night.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I did. I wanted to see, how the dice were rolling. So you take 154 rolls. There's 36 combinations on a set of regular dice, 2 through 12, 36. So if you take 154 divided by 36, that's 4.27. That means she went through the whole chart of 36 combinations, a little over 4 times. So she threw a ton of sevens. But fortunately for her, they were on the come-out roll. In fact, you can roll a 7 6 ways. So if you take 4.27 times 6, she rolled about 24, 25 sevens. That's just the math according to Hoyle. Now, nobody has the record to see exactly what numbers she rolled. I would love to look at that, but, the casino has it. But if you just take the 36 combinations and you can break it down, you can see she rolled a lot of sevens. And I know for a fact she probably rolled 2 or 3 sevens in a row, got that energy out of the way, and then went back to rolling numbers.
Unbelievable. What a night that must have been. One of my favorite poker players, Phil Hellmuth, the poker brat, he keeps pushing positivity. A very positive guy. It's one of his favorite hashtags. Maybe there is something to that. He's won 15 World Series of Poker bracelets, the 1989 World Champion. Important to be positive, have that good energy. Also important to know when to walk away when that energy is gone.
Exactly. That's discipline. And, from a dice setter's point of view, you have to, see the roll. You have to concentrate. You have to, say to yourself, I'm going to make my point. I'm going to make my number. That all falls into energy and, having a positive attitude, etc. I used to work, and I'm not going to get into this too much, but I used to work with an astrologer. In fact, we were invited to Frank Scorbetti's gambling jamboree back in, it's going back a while, in Ontario, Canada, right across from Detroit. And she did charts for myself and her on when the best times were to play. I did write a chapter about it. Now, the key is these trends would only last maybe 15 or 20 minutes. So we'd have to go in, bet heavy, then regress our bets, get our profits. But what I did is I looked at my watch, and I said, well, the trend's going to end in a couple minutes. So I started betting some heavy don't-come bets, getting those numbers behind the numbers. And lots of times we weren't rolling the dice, other people were. But when the trend was over and the shooter sevened out, we'd already had our place bets off the table, and we won all the don't-come bets. And then we just looked at each other and said, color in, we're done, that's it.
I mean, any little edge you can find, right?
Oh, yeah, and here's the thing. Casinos know this works. The Orientals call it chi, which is energy. The casinos spend a lot of money on what they call Feng shui experts. Those are people that put the casino in certain ways, the way they set it up, so many positions at a table, so many tables in an area. It's a 2,000-year-old topic. It's called Feng Shui. The Indian casino owners know about it because they believe in working with Mother Nature and the earth. And I think the Mohegan Sun is a perfect example of using Feng Shui. But now you're getting into really, really advanced stuff. And, I'll leave that for people if they want to read about it and learn more about it later on.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's all fascinating stuff. I was on the website today again. I mentioned that. It looks great. PlatinumCraps.com. All things gambling on there. Great anecdotes, great strategy, everything from sports betting, blackjack, roulette, baccarat. It's got it all. A ton of excellent content on there. The website looks great, man.
Oh, well, thank you. What I did was, after you read the book and you go to the website, because I do have a background in art, I wanted to keep the same look, the same flow, subliminally the same look. So I took the colors from the book and some photos from the book, and I gave it to the corporation that did our website. And they did a great job. I couldn't do all that stuff. But I told them, the kind of look I wanted, and they came up with the format. And the people that go to the website, they seem to like it.
I know you put out videos as well. You have a YouTube channel. I mean, all together, the book, the website, the YouTube channel, this is a pretty little nice educational program. It really is.
Well, some people said I put too much information on YouTube. But when I was teaching, one of my students said, Garrison, please put something on YouTube. There's a lot of information out there. Some of it's incorrect, and a lot of it's confusing. So what I did was I put up a clip on YouTube using the KISS method. And then that kind of led to people saying, well, this information should then be put into a book. And it just went from, it's kind of like a snowball rolling down the hill. It just got bigger and bigger. So once you put something on YouTube, you really can't take it down. And I know a lot of people have gone on YouTube and picked up some information about dice setting. And that's great because basically, a smart player wants to learn more, and, they get in contact with us, and then we take them to the next level. But we never call anybody. We never push anybody. Hopefully they call us.
You mentioned Feng Shui. The Feng Shui of the world right now. Pretty strange times. Pandemic living. What is the situation in Vegas right now? Are the casinos open?
Yeah, most of the casinos are open. Now, some of the casinos on the Strip are only opened, say, Thursday through Sunday. They close Monday and Tuesday. There's a limit of how many how many players. It's usually 6, 3 on each side. That doesn't bother me. The problem is some of these barriers that they're putting up are so hard. I was at one local casino here, and it was like walking into a bank. They had this big partition in front of you, and then just a little slot where you can make your bets. And it was almost impossible to, get your arm down the table. So obviously we didn't play there. And then there's some tables that just, as long as you have a mask on, there's no partition. So eventually it's going to open up back where it was because they know they're losing money. They'd rather have 8 to 10 players at a table than just 4 to 6.
We can only hope, my man. We can only hope. Garrison Russell is the author of Platinum Craps and Dice Setting. You'll like it, folks. It would be a great addition to your collection. I'm thrilled to have mine right in front of me, autographed as well. I love that. For more information, visit the website, PlatinumCraps.com. Garrison, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate it. This has been a pleasure.
Well, Derek, let me thank you for having me on, and it's an honor to be a featured guest on your show. I hope your listeners picked up a few tips, and it'll help make them better players. You mentioned the website, and thank you again. And remember, as always, my friend, good luck at the tables.